Hey everybody, Matt Rosenthal. I am the host of Digging In. This show comes to you every week, and every week I do it for the same reason because I want to motivate you, I want to inspire you, and I want to help you reach your potential. This week's guest, Rakesh Amin, is a lawyer, but he's not just a lawyer, he's the founder of one of the coolest law firms in this country. The work they do is amazing, it's unique. His story is amazing, it's unique. And I really think you should tune in and listen to this entire episode, learn about what it is that makes him special and how you can apply that to your own success, your own journey, your own path in life. Hope you enjoy. Hey, what's up, everybody? Matt Rosenthal. And today we've got an absolutely intriguing, interesting, and really fun guest. His name is Rakesh Amin. I got to tell you real quick, I met this guy walking on the beach in Laguna Beach. He and I were staying at the same hotel. He was there for a conference. I was there for work. And we both were doing the same thing at some point, which was we were both looking over to the left of the hotel and saw all these really cool houses that were overlooking the ocean. And at the same time, interestingly enough, we both decided to go down to the beach. So I'm walking on the beach. I stop in front of the first house. I look up and I'm just taking it in. And there he is. So he looks at me and I think he said something similar to what I was thinking, which was like, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? We ended up getting a conversation for like 2 hours. And it was, what I didn't know was who he was and what his background was. And to me, I mean, what are the chances I'm going to be walking on the beach, run into Rakesh and find out that he's just this amazing, intelligent, successful entrepreneur, but that's what he is. And so with that, Rakesh, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. It's really a pleasure. I feel lucky to have met, and absolutely no better place than Dana Point. And looking at those houses to get you motivated, cool. And really, it was just a pleasure. So it's great to be on. Thanks for having me on.
I love it, man. And it's so funny because within 5 minutes of talking to you, I mean, you didn't know, but I'm thinking I got to have this guy on my show because he's like, the things that you are doing and the things that you've done, they're just so damn interesting. And it's really like people out there, well, I can speak for myself, like there's so many people that do so many cool things. And when I heard what you do, I'm like, we got to just share your story with people. So before we get into I'll tell everybody, you are an attorney, you're a very successful attorney, you've built a very successful practice, but in a very specific niche. But before we go there, just take me back, right? Take me back to you as a kid, you going, early years. Like, did you ever see yourself as being who you became and what you're doing today?
Not at all. I'm Indian by background, Gujarati. My wife's a Patel, and I have a whole bunch of Patels in my family. So we're from that part of India, and a lot of us are entrepreneurial, motels, hotels, just stores. But I really didn't have any thought in regards to, starting my own business or anything. I just, the five things for every Indian at that time in the 70s was like med school, pharmacy, optometry, dental. And so I was really looking at those subjects and really just, I had a great childhood. I moved, I was born and raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I lived there till 18. I had a great life, middle school, high school. I had great friends and, I played sports and I enjoyed. I didn't really excel at school, but I did pretty well. After I went to, I ended up graduating and going into college and, thinking that I would do med school. And I didn't really think that was the track for me. So then I ended up going down the pharmacy path and really thinking that I would gain a PhD after pharmacy and do research like my dad. So a lot of this circles back, and he's going to be, coming here for Thanksgiving in about an hour. And, my sister's a pharmacist, my brother-in-law is a pharmacist, and we have pharmacy in our blood. But I basically thought that, let me just go do that because I'm good at chemistry, I'm good at math. Let me just go do that. And that I landed in pharmacy school, and really I didn't have any interest that first year, and took a pharmacy law class that they make you take. And I did, I did pretty well in that class. And, I started to think of law. So really it was pharmacy school that started to make me think of law. And yeah, that was the story. I had no plan. Indians back in the 70s and 80s never thought of law school.
So yeah, I mean, you had a pretty interesting, normal life. There was, so many entrepreneurs have stories of, trauma and difficult childhoods and all these different things, but you didn't. And it's really awesome, that you were able to have such a stable, upbringing and childhood and the education that you got, right?
Absolutely. And really, I think living in a nice area in Kalamazoo, I kind of looked, I did small jobs here and there. I didn't see a lot of other people in the neighborhood doing them, but I'd shovel, driveways and mow lawns. And my best friend who lives in Florida in Tallahassee, he knows, like, I cut his parents' lawn, but he never cut mine. I always used to kind of like be in, just kind of get jobs and so on. But my parents, like a lot of Indian parents, they get a side business. And so they started a convenience store. So I started working in the convenience store when I was pretty young, selling whatever, including lottery tickets. And my dad telling me that the customers are everything, and, get to know them and talk to them and so on and so on. So that was really beneficial. I really think that was helpful for me, having that structured convenience store job outside of like mowing lawns, and kind of understanding that business is just about mainly showing up, planning, and then working hard and, getting through the day and just trying to, improve it.
It's interesting because you really did have a culture in your home of hard work. And like listening to you talk about shoveling snow, I can relate. I mean, that's how I made money when I was a kid. Like, you would pray for snow,
Yeah.
and mowing lawns and all the things that we try to do to make money. But it's, a lot of kids don't care about that. And I always found that it was just a select few. And I'm not sure what the reason was for each of those people, but some people just like to work, right? They want to make the money. They want to feel like they're self-sufficient. They want to do those things that build confidence. And in your case, your family, was really, it sounds like, instrumental in creating the beginnings of what became a very, very solid work ethic for you.
Absolutely. They I'm not sure they're known for it, but I think like Indian families, kind of like some other Asian, families, and just, I think in different cultures, but when we get to be 10 or 12, typically, there can be some where they're like, okay, you're independent, go out there. Our parents pull us back in and say, family is everything. And you have to start work. So they don't really want you to become independent and going to date a whole bunch of people and then doing your own thing. They basically want to pull you back in at 12 and 14 and basically say, yeah,
that's cultural.
basically it's a cultural thing, like some people, they're, becoming a man, like I went to my first bat mitzvah, and it's interesting that, and I think that just a lot of, in different ways, in the Jewish culture, they push business and accountability and responsibility through that route. And ours was through, we're pulling you back in. There's no big party. This is what you're doing for the next 6 years. And it was good though, for me. It gave me some loose structure that I understood what business was, at least kind of loosely.
So that's interesting. So that really, it definitely helps, right? Because I know your whole story, or a lot of it. So that really helps, like, set the foundation for, like, I know how hard you've worked because you've told me the stories.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? And not everybody can relate, but there are some people out there who like probably are going to hear what you're about to tell us and be like, yeah, you know what? It is all about hard work. Like you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but it does help to really have that work ethic. So you went to college, right? And you, as you mentioned, there was the medical school option, there was the pharmaceutical, the pharmacist option, but you ended up being an attorney and a
Yeah.
really good attorney that's built an amazing practice and a really interesting niche. So that you gotta lay that story on us.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And it was different before. I mean, I graduated pharmacy school in 1991, and I worked full time as a Walgreens pharmacist. And then I went to law school in 92 to 95. And I was a pharmacist at Walgreens, working midnights through law school. But I went to school to really be.
Wait, say that again. Whoa, you went too quick. That you did
I
what?
I worked the midnight shift at Walgreens. I was planning on studying con law at 3 a.m. After I had my meal, which was like a foot-long Subway sandwich or something in the middle of the night. It didn't work that well. It's hard to read con law at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but I did end up working through law school. I got a partial scholarship, but the working really helped pay for law school. So it helped me kind of, not have any loans through it. But I worked kind of 92 to 95 as a pharmacist during law school. And then I went to school to be a patent lawyer because I wanted to be a health lawyer because I worked at a hospital in Kalamazoo where I was born. And that was my pharmacy intern. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought, let me become a hospital lawyer. I can play golf every afternoon. And I quickly learned that wasn't what it was about. So my backdoor neighbor ended up being a pharmacist and a lawyer where I grew up. And he's like, do you know about patents? And I had no clue. And I'm like, let me check it out. And so I ended up wanting to be a patent lawyer without really knowing anything about it. I wanted to go to law school. I had no idea what a corporate or an M&A lawyer was. I had no idea what IP was or a patent, but I kind of just decided on a whim because I kind of felt like I needed something to label myself as, and I needed some specialty. I always thought that you have to be a little different to kind of, to kind of make it. It helps to be in whatever. So I went to school to be a patent and trademark lawyer, took every class. I still practice it. We write patents every day. We do patent litigation every day. We manage thousands of trademarks and do litigation every day. But when I first started law school, I really thought I was going to be a pure patent attorney writing patents. And after the first major class, patent planning and practice, which is in your second year, and I got an A in it, and I really struggled. It took me forever to write a patent, and it was an engineering patent, not a chemical patent, but I just knew that this isn't for me because I worked double than most of my friends, and I did get a good score, but it was a struggle. So I didn't love writing patents, but I went through school, and everybody that doesn't want to write patents wants to be a patent litigator. So that's what I turned to. I wanted to be a patent litigator, and so I applied everywhere, but nobody really gave me a job. And so my first partner, my first law firm that I started in 98, this is in 95. She was a Walgreens pharmacist too, but she graduated a couple of years earlier than me. And she called me and she's like, well, we represent X company and they're getting sued by the Federal Trade Commission in 15 states. And we represent another company that's getting sued. And I remember you wanted to litigate. So do you want a job? And so I went there, and it was the first firm for Herbalife. It was the first firm for Rexall Sundown and apple cider vinegar, Patricia Bragg. It was her first firm. So we represented a lot of dietary supplement companies before they were called dietary supplements. So long story is I ended up joining this firm, and they said, you can do IP, you can do trademarks and patents, but you have to learn FDA, FTC, and FTC is advertising. So on every product, there needs to be truthful and non-misleading advertising, substantiated by whatever's required. And it aligns with the claim. Usually you need science when it deals with health related claims. So that's kind of what I started doing. I was like, doing touching on patent issues, but not writing patents, doing trademark filings. There was no USPTO.gov or internet. So you would mail all your trademark applications in. We did labeling reviews, advertising reviews, and that's basically what I did. And so a little backdrop is in '94, President Clinton signed the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which created the category for supplements. And it also amended the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, which allowed for structure function claims on food and beverages in certain situations. So as you can tell, '94 was kind of before the internet. And before '94, probably 1975 to 1990, there was very little innovation in food and beverage. I think technology allowed some innovation. This Dietary Supplement Act allowed innovation for supplements, but also for food and beverage. You combine that with technology, and then people started to be aware of like sugar and like labels, and they started to look at labels. And I kind of rode that trend. And I started my first firm. I was there for 3 years. I handled a trademark case against Coca-Cola. I was handling like major FTC cases. I had help, but as a young lawyer, I learned a ton. And I basically started my first firm in 1998 with the partner that recruited me at the previous firm, because my old boss, he was 85 at the time, and he didn't want to buy us the internet and the cell phone. So he's like, start your own, and I'll help you along the way.
Rakesh, tell me something. I don't want to interrupt you, because that story it flowed so well. Like, your story is really so interesting. But your combination of like somewhere in there, I think you might have skipped over it. So you actually went to school and graduated and had a degree as a pharmacist.
Yes.
Because you were able to actually go get that job. So obviously you were a pharmacist while you were going to law school. How common is it for somebody in your field, right? Because now that we know what your niche is, by the way, how would you describe your niche best in law?
So I consider myself, I'm a health and beauty lawyer. It sounds more cool now than it used to. There's nothing cool about food and beverage in the early '90s and mid '90s, but health and beauty. And so that focuses on regulatory, intellectual property, and litigation. So health and beauty to me is like foods, beverages, dietary supplements, cosmetics, cleaning products, pet care, pet foods. It includes drugs, a lot of OTC drugs, including OTC monograph drugs and homeopathic drugs. It includes medical devices too. I mean, health and beauty encompasses technology now, and encompasses drugs too. I know that drugs have a bad reputation, but I'm really glad that there's a renewed credibility in our drug system, because we need them. We definitely need them.
So with your background as a pharmacist and what you do as a lawyer, how common is that combination in your field amongst other attorneys? Because you have a unique perspective.
There are probably more than you think pharmacist attorneys. It's probably less than 1%, but you do see folks going. You see a lot of engineers going to law school. You see a lot of, again, probably focusing on patents. A lot of times when you have a science background, you kind of think of law and you want to mix your science background. And so sometimes, reflexively, you just kind of, you make that decision, even though you may not really want to do patent law.
Right.
But yeah, quite a few people go. Obviously more poli-sci and English majors and history majors go to law school. They're probably better prepared. I learned how to write in law school. I learned how to speak, and and debate in law school. They really don't teach you these things in pharmacy school, and if you really don't go after it, you're really never going to learn it. So, I didn't.
But you got an interesting niche. I mean, so it's interesting to put those things together, and it doesn't sound like it worked out really well for you, right? And it really works out well for the people that you represent, right? Because you have such a unique perspective. And so when I met you and we walked for like an hour and a half or 2 hours that day. We just kept walking and walking and walking. And as I'm listening to you talk, by the way, when I first walked up to you, you got to remember, we're on a beach and there's a lot of people. So you start talking to me and I'm like, who is this guy? Is he safe? Is he a homeless guy? Like, and you might've been thinking the same thing about me. We're like two strangers, like meeting on the beach in front of like the Ritz-Carlton, right? So, but we started walking and you started talking. Things that you were sharing with me were so interesting. And I was listening to you talk about the drugs or the things you've been involved with and the companies you represent and their household names. And it was so intriguing to me that as you just told your story, how you got into it. And thank you for sharing that you worked for that firm and you had the work with Coca-Cola. And so you were able to really sharpen your saw is the expression. Then you go into your own practice and you've done some amazing things, right? I mean, some pretty amazing things. Like, give me something exciting. You've done some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're part of, we get the benefit of working with our clients who are really awesome. And it's cool in food and beverage and supplements and cosmetics because it's really all evolving a lot more than it did before. So there was so much white space. There really is a ton of white space still. The next 15 years, clean label, functional, innovative, disruptive, get great entrepreneurs. And, there's a lot of still, innovation that you're going to see a lot of products come to market in the next 10 years that are going to be here to stay. You're going to think of them like General Mills. It's going to, maybe not completely, for a few years, but a lot of these products that you've seen come on the market in the last 10 years, they're here to stay. They're really not going away. They're ones that have been bought by some of the biggest strategics that are really looking to shift to those types of products, those better for you types of products. So, I mean, some cool things.
Before you say it, here's what I want you to, there are people that listening to this that could be in law school. They could be thinking about going to law school. They might not even know what their path in life is. And what you're about to share is what you've shared so far is the story of you thought you had path A, it became path B, and path B and A ended up being path C, which was this growth out of the things you did. And then there's this fun aspect to it because you're doing some fun stuff. And that's what, and I know you've got some, I'm not sure if you can talk about any of them, but there's some names of companies that everybody knows that you get to represent. And anybody out there who thinks that things aren't possible, Rakesh has worked his butt off, and he'll speak for himself on that, but gotten to a place where they're one of the most respected firms in this country, in this space, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed. We rode the wave, and we first looked to dominate, not dominate, but really work dietary supplements. I mean, that was really our area. As Herbalife, as you know, they have cleaning products, they have cosmetics, they have
it's a huge product. Everybody knows Herbalife.
Yeah, they have, a lot
company.
of foods and beverages, even though they're in weird formats like powders and stuff like that. Ultimately, and a lot of my friends are like, Rock, why are you not going into drugs or devices? I'm like, there's so much here in supplements. And then I remember going to these major supplement shows and going to the other end where there's food and beverage innovation and really not even spending a ton of time there. I'm like, who are these companies? And God, I'd love to represent them, but I barely knew that many of them. So I'd go to that side, I'd go booth to booth, I'd pick up some cards, but we weren't really as well known as we were in supplements. So it was a little easier. Supplements is a smaller area, So what I did was I really focused on that. I definitely didn't go to drugs and devices. I focused on supplements. I didn't focus on food, beverage. I didn't
It's a
focus
huge
on
market.
cosmetics. And we still did food and beverage at that time, and we did cosmetics. But did I go after it? Not with a vengeance. I went after it with supplements, and I built up my network there. And luckily, because it wasn't strategic, supplements ended up morphing, like overlapping with food and beverage and cosmetics and pet foods and so on. And like I said, a few minutes ago, DSHEA, that Dietary Supplement Act, it amended the Nutrition Act. So it makes sense that there is a convergence. And you're seeing now even convergences of alcohol companies with non-alcohol companies and, alcohol companies with food and beverage. You're going to see a convergence of a lot of different types of companies together. But yeah, that's kind of how I focused on supplements, and then I got some really great connections in the food and beverage industry in 2010. And this is after 12 years of owning a law firm and representing 100 food and bev and 100 cosmetics. But I met this corporate attorney that ended up referring probably over 500, 600 companies to me since 2012. He's famous. He's the #1 food and beverage corporate lawyer in America that did it for the Vitamin Water folks and a whole bunch of other companies. And we were doing great with supplements. Well, all of a sudden now we're doing great in food and beverage. And we always knew food and beverage, like I said, but we weren't like incredibly well known. And then I recruited my partner and managing partner of our firm right now, Ivan Wasserman. And he was the first lawyer for a whole bunch of people on TV. He was huge in cosmetics, and he still is. And just that alone, I think, made us a #1 cosmetic law firm in the country, is by recruiting Ivan Wasserman, because he knew everybody and they all, loved him. They still do. And so, we check supplements, then we check food and beverage, and then we check cosmetics. And before you know it, we represent, we're one of the leaders in 4 of the top categories. And they came in different ways. Like I said, my partner, Ashish Talati, it was Amin Talati for many years. And he knows all the cosmetic companies that we represented, but they were nowhere to the level of what it is now. So
now you guys have a pedigree. It's pretty amazing what you guys have now. Oh, I think we lost them.
Oh, did you hear me?
There you, yep, there you are.
Okay, and I just need to plug this in real quick, make sure I don't lose any. And then to finish it also, 4 years ago, we brought in a medical device group that is one of the best in the countries. We recruited like top guns out of DC, and so we built each practice group very differently. We built the medical devices through really lateral hiring, and we always did devices. 2 of my partners for the last 8 years or 10 years were biomedical engineers, and we always did devices, but not to the level that we do now. Now we represent, wheelchair companies to X-ray companies, and obviously hand sanitizer companies and all types. We're really well known, but it took us forever. Some people are like, how did you do this? Well, I'm like, you start from 1998 and you hire 1 lawyer every year is not that hard. It's just the problem is that I didn't hire everybody perfectly the right time around, or the first time around. So I probably, it was difficult, but really adding 1 lawyer every year since 1998, we're 29 lawyers right now. We're probably on a path to be, 40, 50 lawyers in 3-5 years. But, that was never really the goal. A little of it was just service your clients, win your lawsuits, do great work, build strong relationships. And that was the thing. And really, if you ever accept anything, just make sure that you're accountable for it so you can handle it. If you need outside help, get the outside help. You can't always, on a small budget, just hire lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. I mean, I wasn't probably the business person that really knew how to do it all, the corporate M&A guy that, well, I'm going to finance this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to build it. Didn't go that way. It was like one lawyer at a time and kind of just figuring it out. And
So if you
along the
needed
way,
something, you that's what I was going to say before. Thank you for jogging my memory. Along the way, you were the sales guy, you were the accountant, you were running the business, you were doing marketing, you were servicing your clients. Like along the way, you were doing it all. You built it up. Things are different now, but that's what would you say to a business owner who's doing it all, right? And you're putting all that time in, and maybe you're like, is it really worth it? What would you say to that person?
it's absolutely worth it. I mean, there's no bigger achievement and accomplishment than something that's like really well earned, and difficult. There's so much accomplishment, and that's really, you know, it's something that just it builds a lot of confidence. It builds a lot of happiness. Um, but ultimately, yeah, it takes hard work, and there's a lot of trial and error. Um, it's like that John Wooden, pyramid of success. Um, you know, Competitive toughness, love, these things are at the highest. And as long as you stay tough and love, even though it's like a love-hate thing, you can't have hate without love. And so um, I think it's the best. And I think investing in yourself and starting, like being entrepreneurial, I even think having partners is an awesome thing. A lot of people, there are a few partnerships that didn't work in my life. And one of my best friends, and he's my cousin, and he's like my little brother. He's like, I don't think you're good with partners. And I remember throwing the football with him, and it still sticks with me today. I didn't even tell him. And I'm like, and I went back home and I'm like, no, I'm good with partners. It just didn't work. And so I always knew that I didn't want to do it all myself. I knew I wanted to hire better. Um, I play pickup basketball, and whenever I'm the ninth or 10th picked, all the people, they may not always say it, but I'm pretty liked on the basketball court. We always win if I'm picked 9 or 10. But if I'm ever picked like 5 or 6, that's not a good thing. So when people pick me high, I'm like, why did you do that? You could have gotten me a lot lower. I can guard a 5. I can guard a 6. I mean, I foul them, but I can guard them. But bottom line is, in 2005, I had this vision where I wanted to be number 5 on every team. So I was doing all the FDA, all the FTC, which is advertising, all the patents, all the patent litigation, all the trademarks, all the trademark litigation, all the licensing agreements. And then I was doing the business development. Technology wasn't perfect. You're entering time. It was just 7-day a week job. And I did it. I loved it. I mean, my wife, she let me do whatever I wanted to do. I got to work all the time,
Right,
6 hours on Saturday and Sunday.
That's a big deal too, by the way, not to be
Really,
underplayed. It's very important.
and having a great partner in life is is such a blessing for me too. So I had things, really line up for me because she has helped me so much. But yeah, I do believe that my vision was that I wanted to be number 5 on every team. So if there was an FDA labeling review or an FDA lawsuit, I'd be number 5, and I wouldn't be number 1. And I can say now in 2021, I'm not even number 5 on any team. If there is a trademark application, there are 5 people in front of me. If there's trademark litigation, there's 5 people in front of me. Same on the patent end, same on the FDA end. So now I'm business development more, but there's an argument to say I'm number 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 on that list, because my partners just developed business with. You met one of them, Rent, and
I did. Yeah.
she builds business with the best of them. So I feel lucky.
You know, it could come across, because you're a very, very humble guy, and at least the guy that I know still so far, you're a very humble guy, and it could come across that it wasn't a very strategic expansion, and as you've evolved, but you weren't shooting from the hip, right? You were planning, you were thinking, there were
Yep.
goals, you were executing, you weren't just making it up as you went along.
Sure. And that always keeps you straight, having goals. And I can say it was always client satisfaction, professional development for yourself and the team, financial performance, and improving business processes. And so knowing that they were all the most important things, and it was all consuming, because you can never do perfect on any of them, and you're just always, going after client satisfaction, professional development, helping your team, that way they can help you. And financial performance, of course. We're lawyers, but just, I think in any business, you have to financially perform. So that really helped. But we're going, I can say that we hired our first consultants in 2020, or the first major consultants. And it was a decision by our managing partner. It was probably the best decision, because they bring a Boston consulting McKinsey group type of thing to our firm, which was very entrepreneurial. And we had systems and processes. Every business has people, systems, processes, and I really focused on the people. And so along the way, we finally got it to be, I feel really blessed. Our people are really solid A people, and it took us a while. And a solid A team, because you can have the people but not bring in the team. But the systems and processes, technology, that's a work in progress, and it's a everyday thing. And you kind of, what I'm reading from the consultants is that you have to continue to do that. You have to continue to not just maintain your technology, but innovate your technology. And that's with your budget. And your budget is usually time, focus, and money. And if you don't put the time and focus, if you don't put the money in the technology, if it's just maintenance, and if it's not innovation, you're going to be behind. And there's a lot
worse than that now, because not only you're talking reactive versus proactive in a way, but the technology is, your company, your service is the law services you provide, but your clients expect that your technology is supporting you the way that it needs to. It's unspoken, but they also expect that your cybersecurity is where it needs to be. They don't expect that your data is going to be hacked. We're like living in this situation now where even what you budget for now, a year from now, it could be a different budget.
Yeah,
it could need something different.
And there's this corporate counsel association that is kind of the best of all the corporate attorneys, in-house counsel. And they have a book called Unless You Ask. And really, it's really telling managing or in-house counsel, ask your law firms this. And it's an 80-page, really thick, dense, but it's only 80 pages. But it's called Unless You Ask. Is your lawyers aren't going to tell you to ask. Your lawyers typically aren't going to engage you on this book. So you have to engage them. And a lot of in-house counsel, they don't want to do it because they don't want to offend the lawyers. It's time consuming, so on and so on. But ultimately, it's adding value beyond the rendering of legal services. So all lawyers say we do great legal services, we win, we focus on high quality, but there are things that are beyond rendering of legal services that clients expect. And really, you're right, they're tucked away in corporate counsel association books, and lawyers don't widely spread the unless you ask. I mean, I think that I may spread it in the food and beverage industry and supplement cosmetic over the next 2-3 years, because we have been really focusing on that. We have been really focusing on providing value to our clients beyond winning our lawsuits, which is a critical component, but it's not the only one.
I gotta admit, I've been taking some notes while you're talking, because some of the things you're saying are they're pretty cool, but they're also things I hear that are there's sort of themes among really successful entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I'm going to share some of these with you, and I want you to just tell me validate for me if I'm hearing you right. So I'm thinking about, like, I'm listening to you. Wow, there's some real keys to building a successful business, and it just so happens you're in the legal field, but I feel like this could apply to any business. You've talked so much about persistence and hard work and work ethic, and I think you've said, God, so many times about building strong relationships. And what you just said, I think, was the best out of all of them, adding value beyond maybe the client's expectations. Like, maybe you didn't say this, but I'm taking it a little further. Be creative, like, with how you develop value, because, I'm in the IT business, you're in the law business. There's a lot of people that do what we do respectively, but how do you set yourself apart? I think really, like, adding real, true value. And it could be things you don't even realize. It could just be, and so you're doing an awesome job with all of that. But what an amazing story.
It's a constant. But yeah, and they ask about cybersecurity in that unless you ask. It's a major thing. I'll send you the publication. I mean, it's a really important thing, not just for law firms, but businesses in America. Yet, and usually cybersecurity is one of the later questions. They're like, but
it's funny.
It's important. It's it's honestly, it's really right now, it's in the top 10 questions that people are asking on technology, if not in the top 5.
It should be number one. It should be number one. I give a talk every week on cybersecurity. I gave one, it was like a week or two ago, and the topic was cybersecurity is the number one risk to your business. It's not losing clients. It's not accounting issues. It's not client satisfaction. It's not human resources, because none of them can shut your business down in a matter of a minute. You have an opportunity with all of those things to plan, to, like, adjust, to pivot. If you're not ready, a cyber attack, we see it all the time. You're out of business. You're out of business. I'm with you.
And it's been that way. I mean, honestly, after even Target got hit, I didn't invest in Target stock. I wish I did. But they spent hundreds of millions to fix that. And they did a really good job. I mean, sure. Because they're human beings, and these cyber attackers are, it's a machine. It's not even a group of people. They use, like IBM computers and artificial intelligence. I'm sure they're doing everything and learning how to hack. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at technology, but I know that they're good at it. And so, and absolutely, and to a law firm, it would be devastating, and really to any business, it's devastating. And so that's why you'll see, and unless you ask, it's one of the top 5 questions in technology. I'm not sure if it's but I kind of feel like in that unless you ask, they're really comprehensive, and they don't think that it's one thing. They think that lawyers and law firms have to do all these things, and you always have to be looking at these things and looking at maintaining, but also innovating, because it's really important. And some of our clients even ask if we have a succession plan, and do we collaborate with our team? Because even collaboration is important to a client. Like, you would think it would be important for the law firm, but everything is important to the client too.
You're dealing with really large companies, and I can see why they ask those questions. It's really interesting. Rakesh, I got to wind it down. I mean, we're going to have to do like 5-part series with you.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about, like, consumers and clients, and really listening to your clients, and really focusing on culture, and bringing harnessing in everything that your team gives you. It's these types of things I could talk about for a long time. So I love you already. You're like, you look better than me, but you're in Miami. So I get this is my sport court outside. And
oh, wow. That's sweet. That's your
yeah,
backyard?
yeah. You know what? It's short court, pickleball, tennis, volleyball, basketball,
Cool.
ping pong table from Beverly Hills.
I'm coming to Chicago.
But it's only 32 degrees. So
I'm coming to Chicago, but not till July.
Okay. And really, thank you. I love you already, and really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
I appreciate that. We've talked a lot. We've had some really, really cool conversations. You're a fun guy. And you're not this stereotypical attorney. Like you're definitely, I can see why you really have gone where you've gone, man. And congratulations, man. You've had a lot of success. And I know that you're up to some cool things with evolving the business and working with your partners. So there's a lot more success ahead. You guys are expanding. It's amazing. You really are doing a great service. And the thing is, you're good people, and that's what matters,
Yeah,
that's
thank you. And I agree. I mean, I am humble, but really I feel incredibly lucky. It took, I feel like family here at the house, family at work, family with my clients, family and friends, and just kind of, I'm lucky.
That's what it's all about, right?
I know.
That's what it's all about.
It's what you need, especially when I told you, I'm not sure, what I have, but what I do know is that I need connections. I don't have a dog yet. My wife still hasn't let us have a dog yet, but I'm hoping for that soon.
Gotta work on that.
But yeah, I love it. I mean, it's really kept me going. If I didn't have my law firm, I don't know what I tell so many people that I would have never. I don't know. Like it's easy to say you would have been great at big law. It would have been a completely 180-degree different path. And really, I'm not sure. The love of this play, of our firm and just of everything, and the competitive. I grew up in Chicago with Michael Jordan, and so on. But no one's competitive like him. But you just have to. You have to be tough. You can't cry about things as much, even though, I've shed a lot of tears and so on. I feel like, the love has kept me in this, and that comes from people, not
absolutely.
Yeah.
You are where you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. And it's, you're there for a reason. It all just works out the way it's supposed to work out. It really does.
Yeah.
And something, when I listen to you, I get motivated, right? And from the first second I met you, and that's why I wanted you to come on here, because that's what we do. Like, this show is about motivating people, and it's about hopefully people listening and seeing and hearing things that help them reach their potential, right? And you did a good job today on sharing some cool stories. And I like, by the way, that you talked about, I didn't hear anything in your past or present that's based on hope, right? Everything, it's been a strategy, right? You didn't shoot from the hip. You were right place, right time, but you made all that happen, man. There was nothing lucky about what happened to you. You made it happen, and you saw the opportunities, you jumped on the opportunities, and you weren't afraid. You didn't run the other way. And I'm sure that in some of the times maybe when you didn't want to do it, you still pushed yourself and you did it. And here you are.
For sure. And you
humble.
Believe. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But during those hard times, I had to remember, like, the Shawshank Redemption movie, and hope and acceptance. Visualize. And kind of, because there were some seriously hard times. But at the same time, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. But it definitely wasn't strategic as much as that at my first firm, I saw that it was working. FDA, FTC relate to each other, because you don't just comply with FDA, you have to be truthful. So you have to comply with the FTC, and the FTC governs every widget, even computers and microphones and pencils. They don't oversee drugs, prescription drugs. And they also don't oversee, I think, radiating, emitting, devices. But the Federal Trade Commission. So there was a relationship between IP and regulatory, and there was a relationship between regulatory, IP, and litigation. I saw that working. When you see a craps table and everybody's cheering, and it goes on for a lot of, I decided to kind of, just kind of put my time. I mean, you're betting on your time and focus more than you are with money, even though money is a big aspect. And yeah, I feel lucky. I mean, I can't tell you, when I first saw dietary supplements and fish oil and so on, I wasn't sure, but I can tell you the one thing that I'm fortunate in is that not only do we get to work on advertising, we read the best science. And I can tell you, I'm such a big believer in the science of not everybody, not every single dietary supplement or kind of new food and beverage or cosmetic, but the amount of money that's going into science and studying it is over the top, and it's never reported at Wall Street or Washington Post or New York Times. It's always a negative, and they're not really reporting on the amount and the billions of dollars flowing into R&D. And so yeah, I love it that we get to be a part of it, because it's, Claritin only works for 70% of the people. The vaccine doesn't work for everybody, even though I think that, it's wise to take the vaccine and the booster and all that kind of stuff. It's not perfect, right? Claritin isn't perfect. Most of these things aren't perfect. And I'm not trying to say take every supplement, but I do believe that people are skeptical and dubious because the FDA never really won the Supplement Act. They always put out bad press, straight to the New York Times and Washington Post, and, different major publications are saying there's no regulations, and there's more regulations than you can even imagine. There's less enforcement, but they're enforcing too. It's a major thing, but I do think that we are involved with the health of America and society, and because if we're help pushing it, and I love that part, like,
wow, what a cool perspective. You're involved with the health of America, and in a protective way. I mean,
yeah,
it's I have I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, right? But so when we look at the label on the back of a vitamin, is that reliable?
Okay, and I can, for the most part, yes. And it depends on what brand and so on. But yeah, by and large, I guess it's that it's, I wouldn't use any 80-20 rule or anything like that. I think a little of it is you look at the pluses and minuses, the benefits. I mean, it's kind of, it doesn't say much. It's what you've heard forever, but look at the advantages, disadvantages, the cost benefits, kind of look at the science, dig in, who's the retailer, is it a doctor channel, or is it kind of buying it from Amazon, and who's the source? And then check into the brand. I mean, honestly, if you're going to ingest anything, you should be doing that anyway, not just for your kids, but if you're ingesting it yourself, you should look at what brand is the fish oil, or whatnot. But yeah, for the most part, the top 20 companies, the 20% of companies in every single category in supplements and cosmetics and so on, they don't want to get hit for, $100 million class action. And even though these class action lawyers are shaking everyone down, they want good facts in their war chest. So the first thing that we tell them is like the art of war. So, selling a food or beverage is not easy. So step back, get on higher ground, put good facts in your war chest. A lot of people take risk without even knowing it. They stick their head out and they're like, well, if we knew of that claim that it was problematic, we never would have made it. So we've heard this forever. So we tell people when there's any risk at all. And so we're not the no lawyers, but we're as conservative as you can get. We tell people when they're taking a risk, because but ultimately, yeah, I do understand, like with food and beverage innovation and supplements, there's going to be certain people that are dubious, but a lot of that was the press, a lot of that was the government, and a lot of it was the companies, bad actors and rogue people. But by and large, I think it's getting more credible by every day, and more money is being plowed into R&D every day, and more people are using lawyers to make sure they're compliant with their claims. Now, again, it's not perfect, and things are kind of, business is fast, right? So you have to slow it down yourself. So you have to slow it down with your time and focus. You can't just say, I got it in the budget, let me order this. Take a look, pause, and do these things that, and trust me, if you're looking at buying it for your kid or yourself, it's interesting stuff.
So the message is do your homework. Most of the big companies are it's solid, but look, there's stuff that's out there that you probably don't know, and maybe you don't want to mess around with.
Yeah, and listen, and you retreat, you get on higher ground. It's like the guy, I know it's kind of, the Gandhi saying, or the art of war saying, you don't fight a fight if you don't need it. So you don't take a pill if you don't need it. But I don't like the need assessment as much as cost benefit. So if there's a benefit to it, and if there's something there, if there's a need or a benefit and you want to do it, but there's a reason I don't pop 100 pills every day. I'm popping, I'm taking vitamin D, I'm taking multi, I'm doing certain other things. I keep it to a minimum because right now I don't need extra. I don't think, knock on wood, but whole food diet is better than anything.
It's the best. Keeps inflammation down. It just keeps you healthy.
Yeah. That whole food diet is less processed, so I believe in that a lot. So
excellent. My friend, I am going to have you on. We're going to do a few more, and we're going to talk business.
All right.
You got some good topics, but I can't wait to see you in person again.
I look forward to you visiting. I promise we're in Florida 6 times in the last, like I said, my best friend lives down there. We're going to be down there again. And I look forward to, you listen so great, and you have so many great things that I want to hear from you too. So I look forward to our dinner. Hopefully we have the families together, but this is, sure. I feel blessed, staring at those $25 million houses that had a way of stopping both of us, right? It's like
so funny,
you're looking up on the cliff and you're like, that's my dream.
I was in that, I was in the room, like working, and we were shooting videos for like 3 days. And at one point I was like, I got to just walk down there and just go look at those houses. They're like on this cliff. I just can't make it up. Like, you can't make up that all of a sudden, you and I become friends and we're doing this. And like, nothing's by accident. I believe everything happens for a reason.
Us Hindus believe in the stars. We don't even get married without having our moms check on the stars. I'm not sure how much I believe in it. There's probably more false advertising on those Indian channels and anything.
That's a whole other video.
That's a whole different thing.
Listen, your dad's going to be there soon. I think an hour and a half ago, you said my dad's going to be here in an hour.
Yeah, he's going to be here any second. He's here for Thanksgiving with my mom.
I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys just have a great time. And you said it's all about family and just being with people and connecting, man. That really is all it comes down to. Everything.
Yeah. So it makes it so much better. It makes everything doable. It helps with your competitive toughness when you have people around you.
It really does. That's
happy. Yeah, that's a happy Thanksgiving. I can't wait. So I think you're going to see me in the next couple of months. I hope
definitely
to be
will.
down in Miami. Yeah, and just God bless. Stay strong, and have fun with your family and friends over the holidays.
Awesome, man. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, man. We're going to touch somebody. We're going to touch somebody.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Take care.